The other thing that really struck me in the book, and that's something that I've been thinking about a lot. I mean, I'm really immersed in a humanistic approach over here, and I really enjoyed how you formulated the experience of your client in terms of psychodynamic theory and in terms of diagnosis. And I'm also thinking there's been tremendous controversy over the new DSM, and I know you've been part
Yeah.
of kind of that debate. And I notice that each of your interventions are primarily relational.
Yeah.
And that really struck me. You can think about it in terms of diagnosis, and you approach all your clients in a deeply relational way. And does that make any sense to you? Like those both things together feel really powerful to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think I know it's even confusing to me actually. I mean, I don't know if I like love the word eclectic when people ask what's your therapeutic orientation. I'm not sure if I love that word because it sometimes feels like okay, I'm just going to throw together anything and I haven't really thought about what works best for me. But I mean, I'm trained psychoanalytically, and then after, the beginning parts of training, I then branched off, and I really do absolutely love relational psychoanalysis. And I would say that that is the natural way I think. So it's not just my training. That's the stuff I was reading when I was an undergrad. That's always what I was drawn to. It makes sense to me, I guess. And so, and the thing I like about relational psychoanalysis is it brings the relationship to life. It really focuses on the relationship and how you can work in the relationship. And so you're right. I mean, the integration of ideas and in some ways my conceptualization is probably would be considered relational if I had to pick. But because I've also been influenced by existential writing, and Karen Horney, who is considered a neo-Freudian psychoanalyst, but her writing is quite humanistic. And I presented on that a year and a half ago at the SHP conference, is situating Karen Horney because she talks about growth and human potential, and she sees people as blocked from being who they are. And I think her influence with the existential theorists and then Yalom's writing, which I've read on my own, gives me a very humanistic my position in the room, myself in the room is humanistic. I'm not an analyst. So I understand it's confusing. It makes sense to me. It doesn't feel confusing in the room, but it's I guess maybe not so easy to describe, but I am humanistic as a person, and that's the way I see the relationship between myself and my patient. But I'm trying to get into what's really going on and get underneath and really pick through what's going on characterologically, how this is getting played out in the relation. That's when I'm going into the relational psychoanalysis stuff.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
it does. And
Okay.
I really enjoyed that because I think there is a chasm between that kind of psychodynamic view of the world and mental health and the humanistic view. And the way that you bring those two things together are really potent, I think, because often in the formulation of diagnosis, the critique, especially here in the UK by humanistic practitioners, is, well,
Oh yeah.
what about the relationship?
Yeah.
But I think my critique of the humanistic approaches, and sometimes I think about that in what I see here in the UK, is that we're not always so good at thinking about the client. Like what you said. Well, what does this client need if they want a text
Right.
message, if they want me to call them back in between sessions? And I think the way that you formulate the client's distress is, I think that's really helpful. It's why I would really want the students that we work with at Temelos to be reading that book, to think about the combination of those two things. Very powerful.
Thank you. That's actually really that's really good feedback. I mean, I think when I was first exposed to relational psychoanalysis, it was like a breath of fresh air to me, because I think in some ways relational psychoanalysis does begin an integration. It begins because there's like a phenomenological element to relational psychoanalysis because of the looking at the like way that things are going on in the room. I'm not sure exactly what I'm trying to say, but it felt closer to anything that I had read before of the way that I was thinking when I was separating the humanistic with the psychodynamic in my mind and then merging them. The relational seems the closest. Of course, Karen Horney is alone in this, and maybe Eric Fromm, but she makes, she offers a lot in terms of giving an idea of like character development and things like that, but also really focusing on people's strengths. So, I mean, anyway, yeah. I'm getting too like verbose, but thank you. That's helpful feedback.
Yeah, well, I can really feel your passion for being in that space in the middle. And yeah, the comment in the chat room that maybe the chasm is all about the language rather than the actual understanding. And I guess there is something about language. But I know in my practice it's been helpful, and it's been a struggle to get into that place where I can also think about, well, what is going on in this client? That maybe diagnostics can be helpful to kind of get underneath some of that stuff. And well, I guess I'm saying that again, where your book's been really helpful for me is to say and we can kind of get underneath that with the relationship. Yeah.
Right, not even necessarily a diagnosis, but like looking at the patterns of the way someone relates to you and the feelings that you have when you're with them can really tell you a lot about their distress.
Yeah.
For example, one thing that I hate when this happens, but it happens kind of often, is when you're sitting with someone and they're in distress and you feel rage. And, usually, I mean, that can have various different meanings, but in my experience, when it's to the point that it's really uncomfortable for me, it usually means that the person I'm sitting with is enraged. And for whatever reason, can they not tell me? Is it unconscious? And then, that goes from knowing the person. But that's why I'm saying, like, sometimes it could be exhausting, right? Because now I've spent the last 45 minutes literally wanting to rip my hair out, and I wasn't even in a bad mood because I'm now containing someone else's rage. But at the same time, because that session happened, I now have a better understanding of what's going on with this person.
Right. Yeah.
And although there is definitely a semantic problem between the different schools of thought, I do think that there can be integration from people that want integration, but for the people that are diehards on either end, it's not just semantic.
Yeah.
I understand the comment. And to me, I could see it as semantic, but the analysts think the humanists are too giving and flexible and the boundaries are loose. And then the humanists find the analysts rigid and too neutral and not available enough. So I'm talking when you have people that are on extremes, and I know people like that,
Yeah.
Sounds like you're also a little incorporating other ideas, or at least open to them, which means you're not on the extreme, right?
Right, so. Yeah. Like, I think it worries me to be in that extremist place. Yeah.
Well, it's almost like if we have a definition of our theoretical orientation, somehow it should be easier. But it's not, we think it will be. I mean, I thought that when I was a student, I'd say I'm psychodynamic, and my humanistic friends would argue with me. But,
Yeah.